Welcome to the Along Podcast. I'm Tracy, a baby boomer.
And I'm Sierra, a millennial.
And on this show, we're not afraid to talk about age and how it changes things. Wellness, lifestyle, relationships, and, well, just life. So come along today as we talk about breaking out of our comfort zones. Sierra. Recently, I went on a trip to New York. I flew across the country, and on my way to the airport, it was so weird. I was like kind of anxious and thinking about all the things I had to do, getting to the airport, getting to, to New York, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, it made me think that I hadn't been out of my comfort zone a long time. And I am a traveler. I love adventure, and all of a sudden I'm like
stressed.
Like this different person. Yeah. It kind of freaked me out. And some research says that a lot of us just stay in our comfort zones. So when was the last time you were out of your comfort zone?
Honestly, this podcast. I'm not normally somebody who, gets in front of a camera or in front of a mic and speaks my opinion. But, sometimes you got to try something new, flex a new part of your brain.
And you know what? Good for you.
Thanks.
Because even though I have done this a bit, it's still a bit out of my comfort zone.
Well, I do have a good teacher.
Oh, okay. I'm more of like a coach or something.
Yeah, like a coach.
Okay, so the question is, how do we know when we need to get out of our comfort zones?
I honestly feel like it's really hard to tell. Kind of to your similar situation, it's not like you knew that you had been in a routine and been in a rut until you got out of it and you were like, oh, wait, I haven't done this in a minute. And it's so easy to lose track of time, and to be in a routine for who knows how long. I mean, we always, by the time the end of the year rolls around, we're always like, where did November go? Where did December go? And I think if you just think about that in terms of your life, it's so easy to be like, I've been doing the same thing for 6 months, 8 months, a year, and didn't even realize it.
And you know what? In my research, because I did a little research for this show, as humans, we're kind of wired to stay in our comfort zone. So it's almost like it's a headwind all the time. Like we have to really work at it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought up routine, because I have to tell you what happened this week.
Okay.
So I was with my family last weekend, and my sister was saying, hey, you know what I've been doing is this intermittent fasting. And so, which, as you probably know what it is, and for those of you who don't know, it's you fast for 16 hours, overnight, 16 hours, and then you eat for a certain window. You give yourself 6 to 8 hours, and you just do that. So I thought, I didn't even plan to do this. Right. I just decided, well, maybe I should try that. And so I started it, and you know what? Something happened. It was kind of magical.
Right.
Because I all of a sudden felt invigorated and also started to lose the belly fat. So I have to admit that.
Well, there's that too.
That is a good, that's a good thing. But it was beyond that. It was beyond the fact that I started to feel thinner and all that, especially the belly fat. It was what happened to me. It was breaking my routine. And I thought, wow, okay, there really is something to this comfort zone.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, as somebody who works from home, even when I put a full face of makeup on, which I don't normally, right? I might put some tinted moisturizer on just to not look scary in front of Zoom, not look deathly. But I'm not usually putting on a full face of makeup. So if I have spent weeks just working from home, not necessarily going out to anything, and then suddenly I get all dolled up for a night, there's a little more pep in my step. And not just because I necessarily feel good about myself because of how I look, but it's just something new. It's something to kind of get you excited about again. And so it makes sense that even if it's just this little thing like changing your breakfast routine and eating a little bit later, and maybe you have these added benefits of energy and all of that, but just the fact that you did it is also invigorating to you, right?
It really is. It's the fact, and it's to get into the age thing. and the generations. I mean, do you think millennials are, do they stay in their comfort zone? Do they not? Are they any different than maybe, well, my generation, which I can speak to about that?
I just think it's an age thing.
Do you?
Like in
Okay.
my 20s, I was far more likely to just bounce around. And then once I hit my 30s, you kind of, you know yourself a little bit better. And then you have less patience for things that don't align with you or that you
Yeah.
don't anticipate will align with you. We make a lot of judgments as we get older, I think is what it is. A lot of snap judgments of like, okay, I know I like this and this, and if I go out on try this new thing on a Friday night, it might not be as fun as what I originally knew I was going to do,
Maybe the longer we're on the planet, the more well, number one, we've already done a lot of stuff. Like for me, I've done, certain things. It's like, okay, I've already done that. Yep. I've already done that and that and that.
That's true. I never thought about that.
And that's kind of, you know what? We got to shake things up. I mean, just the intermittent fasting thing taught me that I have got, and going to New York, I want to do more traveling and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's like we do have to make an effort.
We do. And I also feel like I think to your point, and I never thought about this, but we almost like autopilot, like, oh, I'm not going to like that thing. We just sort of like snap judgment constantly through our life. And as we get older, you just make those judgments so much quicker. And you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. I've already done that before. I've tried it. I didn't like it before, or I did like it, but it's not as good as this other thing that I'm going to do.
We need to, okay, so that happens. So we kind of fall into this lull because, again, we're programmed, we're wired to want
Right.
safety. But then life can get kind of,
Boring.
You know what? That small thing of eating the same breakfast every day, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
And the minute you change it, and so to me, that's a small step.
Right.
It makes you feel like life is more exciting. And who doesn't want that?
Right.
I mean, I think most of us do.
So word to everybody, change your breakfast routine. It'll
Exactly.
change your life.
I mean, the point is you can start with small steps. And here's a reason why we should change it up, get out of our comfort zones is, guess what? It's good for our brains.
I believe that.
It's good for brain health because it changes the neuroplasticity. I sound like I'm a scientist. No.
Okay, Huberman.
But neuroplasticity, and I've kind of recently learned this. I know it's out there. The whole neuroscience thing is pretty interesting anyway. But it changes the pathways. So it shifts your brain and shifts the circuitry. So your brain it's healthier because it helps you to navigate the craziness of life, because look, we can't get out of this life without stuff happening, without shit happening, right? We're going to get curveballs. So if you don't,
That's such a good point.
And if you're in your comfort zone, that's the problem. If you stay in your comfort zone and you stay in the safety zone, when you get the curveballs, because you're going to get them, we're all going to get them. You've had them, I've had them, but they're going to be more. So we want to be able to, the whole idea is to just be able to kind of go with the flow, which we know about that. But that means you have to be able to kind of switch on a dime if you have to. So if you're out of your comfort zone, and if you kind of do that on a regular basis, even you don't have to do anything huge. I think it can really help.
It sounds like it makes you more resilient at the end of the day.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like I think about, I specifically, like, I think about like my grandmother or something like that, who she's like got her like own routine. And then anytime somebody is like coming over, like Thanksgiving dinner, she was just like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this. And it was like, it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't like, people were coming over. She didn't have to get all of these things out, but it really just felt like, oh, this is new. Other people are going to be here. I have to and there was like some anxiety around it. Right. And so if you're constantly, that would be much different than, if she was constantly hosting people, then it would just be like another day of doing it. And so if you're like you're flexing a new muscle, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it
and
is.
it makes sense that if you routinely just flex these different muscles, it becomes less scary and you become more resilient to whatever stress is causing it.
Exactly. And here's the good news for you millennials
Okay.
who are younger than we baby boomers, but you are getting older too.
I know.
I love that. Is that it will help the aging process. I really, and I've done a little research on that too, about as we get older and as I get, well, I hate to say significantly, but okay, I'll say it. Significantly older. What keeps us young? What keeps us vibrant? Because everybody's worried about aging, and we've talked about the beauty trends and the physical part, but it's the internal part. Like what keeps us vibrant when we get older. And if we do this, I think if we really are conscious of our comfort zones and taking a risk and changing our routines, I think it can really help in the aging process and as we get older.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you know what? That's what makes you old.
Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I think that it's kind of like when people do crossword puzzles,
Exactly.
It's like, having different ways of thinking about something and exploring new topics through doing crossword puzzles, that really flexes a different part of your brain. And yeah, I just think having more experiences in general, it makes sense that would keep you young. And honestly, if you think about it, what did you do in your 20s? You were building all of these experiences. So it's almost like the pattern is you spend your kid years and your 20s building all these experiences, and you're so hungry for them. And then you get all these experiences under your belt and you're like, that was enough. Then you hit your 30s
and then it's
40s,
like you're done.
And you're like, and I'm done. That's good.
Done.
I did it.
Know. We don't want to do that, though.
No.
And I have to say, and I really wasn't planning on talking about this, but it's a little digression, is technology.
Yeah.
Because what do you think about that? Because it seems like social media and how we communicate now, I think it seems like technology for every subject we talk about comes into play because it's so pervasive in our lives. And so think about that. So what do you think about how that, like being on social media, communicating via Zoom, text, and we barely call anymore. We don't call each other. So we're in this cocoon.
Yeah. It's funny because this morning I was watching the news like my little grandma self, and I was watching the local news, checking the traffic, even though I'm not leaving the house. And I saw this company, and I wish I could remember what they're called now, but basically their whole plan was to create experiences for people. And they were on TV. They were specifically talking about like this like singles dating thing that's like an in-person fun thing where your friends come up and they create like a PowerPoint about you and why other people should date you, which is
that
really
sounds good.
Funny. But the company itself is like meant to create in-person experiences because you're right, with social media and then also COVID, right? That completely changed everything. So much of experiences and meeting people, it's all virtual. It's all on social media. And I do think that gives us a false sense of having an experience because you're really not having an experience. You're sitting on your couch looking at other people's experiences. And then you're kind of faking your brain into thinking that it's an experience. And so the more you can get out, and what I really liked about this company that I cannot remember their name, I am so sorry. And, but what I really liked about it was the idea of like, let's get people out again, out doing things again, not just going to a bar, but like going on a hike, going to just like anything that's beyond just because even, I mean, I'm guilty of it. When I think about doing something on a Friday, Saturday night that's not sitting at my house, a lot of times I end up hitting up the same people and we end up doing the same thing. It's going to the same 5 bars in the area, right? Because we all live in West Hollywood. And that's still a comfort zone. It's doing something, but that's still a comfort zone. That's really not breaking out of my comfort zone.
I was going to say, at least you're going out and doing something. I mean, we just...
Actually, this is making me realize I really need to get out of West Hollywood because I can't remember the last time I went outside of West Hollywood.
Well, why don't we do a field trip?
A field trip.
We're going to go. Let's do that. Not yet, but we will.
You know where I need to go? I haven't gone to the east side in a long time.
And see?
I can't remember the last time I crossed La Brea.
Okay. And that's okay. And you know what, Sierra? That counts as being out of your comfort zone. Right? I mean, I think it's anything to get out of your comfort zone and get away from our computers, get away from our social media, get away from our phones, and just, like you said, with that company, is have real life experiences. Oh my God, how scary.
You're gonna laugh. This tells you how much I very rarely go outside of like my little bubble in West Hollywood. The other day I had to get my car battery replaced, and it's only it's almost 4 years old, right? And I was like really shocked because there was no like signs that my car battery was dying quicker or whatever. And the guy from AAA comes and he pops the hood and he goes, "How old's your car?" And I was like, "It's a 2021." And he goes, "You barely drive. Your engine looks clean." And I was like, "Yeah, it's only got 16,000 miles on it." And then he started laughing. He goes, "Well, that's why your car battery died." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're not driving enough. Like your car battery charges when you drive it." And he goes, "How far do you drive?" And I go, "Well, I go a mile that way. And I go a mile that way. And that's it." And like every once in a while, I'll go to the Asian market, which takes me 25 minutes to get to. Now that is a real excursion, but there's no freeway in West Hollywood. So I'm not hitting a freeway. I'm not going over like 45 miles an hour. So anyway, word to the wise, like get out of your comfort zone so your car battery won't die.
Yeah, I mean, that is funny because I do the same thing.
I know.
I leave it in my garage. I have a nice, garage.
Do you turn it on at least?
I realize that you have to do that.
Yeah.
So who would have thought car batteries would be part of getting out of your comfort zone?
But apparently you can't just turn it on for like 10, 15 minutes and then go somewhere because you're using the battery. Because of course I'm like charging my phone and doing all these things. And it just like never charges to the full extent. And so for the sake of everyone's car batteries, go get out of your comfort zone, drive a little further than 25, 30 minutes. And yeah.
Okay, see, that counts. Hey, I'm dying to ask our director, Greg, if he has any input about comfort zone. I mean, if you don't, it's fine.
Oh, Greg's a routine man. He's a real routine man.
So do you get out of your comfort zone?
Well, yes, I absolutely do. But I think there's beauty in both having a routine, but then also breaking it.
Okay.
Because the thing of not having a routine, I feel like when you just are total chaos all the time, like you just feel like what you were saying, like with your grandmother and
it's anxiety.
Getting ready for a thing. You're just like, oh my God, da, da, da. Like you never feel like you have a handle on things. And so you get into a routine and you have like, okay, this is my breakfast, my workout, like that. You can finally feel like you're kind of like making progress towards things in life because everything else is on autopilot. So now I can focus on the things that matter. Whereas when it's like the times when I'm traveling or whatever, I get out of it, I really love that part of what I do and getting to go and like breaking up the monotony of the everyday.
Yeah.
But if it was that all the time, I think it would eventually drive me crazy. So I need like a little bit of both, push and pull. Like I get into the routine and then it starts to feel a little, monotonous. Yeah. And it's time to break it.
Yeah, it's like, what's your threshold? But like in order to, it's kind of like when you work out and you like want your heart rate to be better, your HRV or whatever to be better. And so in order to get that, you really have to like push your threshold of your heart rate sometimes and then back it back down. And the way that you slowly get a better one is like by pushing it, but obviously not to the point where you're going to die. Yeah. And then I guess the threshold in that circumstance would be like your ability to tolerate the stress in life, right? Like the anxiety of these like new experiences.
Yeah. And I think you were talking about like going to the same 5 bars and that sort of thing, where it's like you feel like you're technically doing something, but you're not, it's not as fun as it was when you were in your 20s and you're like, oh. So I think maybe the key is, finding new experiences rather than just being like, well, we haven't been social in a minute and I'm itching to do that. So we'll just go like kind of do the same thing we've done 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Because then that's how you then get to the point where you're just like, I don't want to go out tonight. Like, because you kind of like, I've been to that party 1,000 times. I know what it's going to be. Like, there's nothing new there for me. There's nothing like interesting. You're not growing. You're not learning. You're not like, you might have an interesting conversation or two, but most of the time, like, I feel like at this point, people are kind of going home at a responsible time. Like, it's past the days where it's like everyone's staying up all night. And so I think, finding things where you can kind of actually branch out and like, I don't know, like maybe this is why young people think as you get
More
older,
boring.
they're like boring. Like, why do you want to go to a museum? Like, what's wrong with you?
But it's true. I want to experience something different. I also, you know what I was thinking, because it made me think of a friend of Greg and I have a mutual friend, and one of the things that we were talking about with her, because she's single, is like new ways to meet people. And the hot thing right now is pickleball. And like everybody, and she was like, I don't want to play pickleball because I'm uncoordinated. And it made me really realize that I think a lot of the time what keeps us from doing like new experiences is that we are afraid to feel like a beginner. We're afraid to fail at it. And
Yes.
so many times, like, it's different than like, okay, I'm going to go to a movie instead of go to a restaurant, and I haven't gone to the movies in a while, but like a new activity, a new hobby, a new place, like that is a foreign country. You're afraid that you're going to embarrass yourself. Right?
I think you made a really good point. And also, it's so funny you mentioned pickleball, because last weekend I was in Palm Springs with my sister. They have a place there, and so they were doing pickleball. But what's interesting is, yeah, it's a new sport, and I think it's important. It can really help with being out of your comfort zone, but it's also multi-generational.
Yeah, it is. It's,
It just hit me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people there are, my age that have places in there, but all of their kids were there, and they're all like your age.
Yeah.
So they're all playing together. And so there's something about that is getting out of your comfort zone, because the thing is, it's even something like that can be a good thing to do, to break out of our comfort zones.
right. I mean, dare to be a beginner again. I
Yeah,
think it's so
dare to
important.
be a
It is
beginner.
really, because as we get older in our lives, there's fewer things that we're not already good at, right? We have experience under our belt. We kind of know how to tap back into it. Even if it's been a while since you've done it, you kind of remember it. So like, to try something completely new, truly invigorating.
And you know what? I was just thinking, because it can mean so many different things. So even like, I'm on Duolingo for my Spanish. I've been doing it for a long time, and it is now a routine or a good habit. But there's so many ways to experience a new skill, to expand ourselves in so many different ways that we're maybe not even thinking about.
And I think when you like look at it from the sense of like, I'm not afraid to be a beginner again, that again is like testing this muscle of resilience in you. Like this idea of like, okay, I might embarrass myself when I go and say something to someone who speaks this language, and I'm just but who cares? Like that, testing that muscle and getting used to the idea of like these small little failures or embarrassments not being that big of a deal, not stopping you from doing something. I think that in and of itself is like such a good lesson to learn as a person.
And I love that question that everybody's heard this, is what would you do if you knew you could not fail in the world?
Yeah.
If you could pick anything, what would that be? Because so many times I think that we do that.
That sounds really boring. If you knew you couldn't fail.
If you knew you couldn't fail, that's true. But I think it's more about getting you to a place of trying something, even regardless.
Confidence.
It's just saying, what would you want to experience?
Right. I think it's confidence. If you had the confidence that you knew no matter what you did, it was going to be okay, then you probably try a lot more things.
Yeah,
but you can build
exactly.
confidence in other ways, and it probably starts with trying new things.
I mean, it really does. Okay, I think we absolutely have to do I don't know. I'm excited about going out and creating.
You want to go play pickleball?
Maybe I should. I mean, everybody's
on
doing
the east
it.
side, so I cross La Brea.
And you've played
I'll
it?
drive, so my car battery gets charged.
Okay, well, we'll do we'll do a long podcast in the pickleball courts.
There you go.
And just see what happens. There's so many things we could do. Cooking, we could do so many things.
Yeah.
I'm very invigorated by all of this. And because we're talking about age, and I've been thinking about this in terms of comfort zones and what happens. Oh my God. Not to depress you guys that are millennials, but what happens is you start to get more fearful, and it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
And it has to do with health, and I don't need to get into all of that, but the obvious. But as we age, it is a headwind, and we have to fight against it, I think. And at your age, I think it's so important to just get started and be in the habit of that, because it does happen, and people start talking about, oh my God, their ailments and broken bones and falling and all those things. And it's like, no, we can't be like that. I mean, my mom is in her 90s and she's had some stuff happen, but she's still going.
Yeah. I mean,
she's just like going for it.
I think that is the key, especially, I mean, my grandmother is like this too. I mean, she does get anxious here and there, but honestly, she is one of those people that's just like, well, I'm just going to keep moving. I'm going to keep doing it. Nobody can tell me otherwise, sort of thing. And I think that's really important, to have the strong willpower.
Exactly. And also, you gave me another thought about that is because people, of course, life cycle, people die. So what do? Do you hang in and be all, oh my God, and get into a dark space about it? Of course, of course it's a difficult thing to go through. But at the same time, if you just keep moving forward, I think there's a real important part of that in life is just keep moving forward, which means getting out of your comfort zone.
It does. It means getting out of your comfort zone by being okay with uncomfortability and being okay with possibly failing, and just like keep going. Because it really is, that is a skill in life, to be okay being uncomfortable, to be okay with being unsure of how something's going to work out, and just being like, you know what? I'll figure it out, or I'll be fine no matter, that type of, it's a bigger mindset, but it applies to even just when you already have a set plan on a Friday night and someone offers you to do something else, and just take a chance and say, I may hate this, but.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And then, even keep a journal about it. I'm just thinking of what kinds of tips do you think in ways there are to get out of our comfort zones? If somebody wants to start like right now, what would...
Well, first of all, I am guilty of being I think we're all guilty of it, but I clearly am also guilty of it a lot. I feel like I kind of similar to Greg. I get in my comfort zone and in my routine because it's good, because it does put your brain on autopilot, and you can accomplish a lot when you have a set routine and a set way of doing things, and you can kind of like accomplish all the things that we have to get done in our life. Like if I didn't have a routine, I wouldn't be able to get the laundry done and get all my work done, and then also like take my dog on all these walks. So there is a benefit to that. But I feel like maybe having like a check-in with yourself of like, when's the last time you did something new? When's the last time you explored a new area? When's the last time you, I don't know, for somebody who doesn't cook that often and always orders in, cooked a meal at home? Like just thinking of some of the areas that you'd like to try more. And then, I don't know, just having a monthly sit down with yourself and being like, when did I actually do that? Did I do that? Should I schedule that in and make a plan to do that? Of like, I feel like scheduling in time to break out of your comfort zone for some people might be necessary. It might be necessary for some of us.
It's like create a routine of, checking in about when was the last time I did something for the first time? Yeah. It's essentially that question, right?
Yeah. If you're the type of person that has to schedule sex, you probably also have to schedule getting out of your comfort zone.
Well, okay. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I love that you talked about you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that is, I saw that Steve Harvey's a talk show host who said that. And when I saw that and heard that, I thought, that really makes sense.
It does.
Is just get in the habit, get in the routine of feeling uncomfortable and just kind of get used to it. And then hopefully you'll have a lot more exciting experiences than you ever dreamed of.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
So there's a last quote that I love about this is, the last thing to grow on a tree is the fruit. So it is a process. So if you think of it like that, you got to sort of build it and then know that the rewards will maybe come later. It may not be instant, but it will happen.
Well, to your point earlier, it doesn't have to be this like big thing. It can be something small, right? Because sometimes getting out of our comfort zone is such a small little step of, if you are going out to dinner, then instead of picking a bar or a restaurant in your neighborhood, go to one that's like 45 minutes away in a neighborhood you haven't tried. Yeah, it can be as small as that. Or for you, it was just adjusting the timeline of your breakfast that made you really be like, oh, wow, this feels different.
Yeah.
It's not any different than like, when you're going through a breakup and like you want to like change everything about your hair, you want to cut it short or dye it or something like that. I just want something different. It doesn't have to be that. It could just be you could get a basic trim and you'll probably feel better, And I think that's kind of the same thing when it comes to comfort zones and getting out of there. It's a progress and little steps along the way to getting to the big jumps, And
it's funny just talking about doing this podcast, and you're talking about how, is out of your comfort zone and somewhat out of mine too. You start to get comfortable.
Yeah.
And then you got to find something else.
You got to find something new. I know we're constantly looking at, what's the word, like homeostasis or whatever.
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
Constantly looking for that. I agree. I mean, we're all used to it. We are human beings at the end of the day, and that it is nice to have that. But at the same time, the cavemen couldn't get too comfortable, because if they got way too comfortable and a predator came, they would get eaten. So there's something in us that still needs that little excitement in there.
There is. And here's the good news, Sierra. It's not as scary as it looks.
No, it's not.
So we'll leave you with that. Thanks for coming along with us. And if you want more, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Along Podcast. See you next time.